Hello everybody, Jardis here, and in today's video I'm going to be showing you a warrior build that I came up with that I find rather enjoyable for the new expansion of Janthir Wilds. Now for those of you who do not know, Janthir Wilds is the most recent expansion that came out for Guild Wars 2, and it came out with a lot of features, including the ability to use the spear weapon as a land weapon as opposed to being strictly an underwater weapon. Ever since this expansion came out, there have been a lot of builds popping up that focuses on using the spear, and I figured it was time for me to share one that I thoroughly enjoy using, and I figured hopefully that you will enjoy it as well. Now before I get into this, I'm going to point out that this will not be the best build that a warrior can achieve with the spear. It is just one that I find rather fun to play. Now to get into this build, I am going to show you what we are using. First off, we will be using Tactics, Strength, and Spellbreaker. For Tactics, we will be taking Leg Specialist. Immobilize a target when you cripple them with a skill. Deal increased strike damage to foes affected with movement impairing conditions. What we want from this is basically it gives us a 10% damage increase, but there's also an effect on here that we will be using that will match with one of the further traits that we will talk about later. We will be taking Empower Allies. While you are in combat, gain might to yourself and nearby allies each interval. Basically what this is that while we're in combat, we will be getting might to ourselves as well as nearby players, and this will become rather important because it combines with another trait line that I will talk about later. And then finally we will be taking Vigorous Shouts. Shout skills heal allies. Gain healing power based on your power. Well, we will be taking several shout utility abilities, so this will come into play rather often. Now for the strength, we will be taking Peak Performance. Deal increased strike damage. Physical skills further increase all outgoing strike damage for a period of time. Now this is a percentage increase to our damage as well as the ability to use physical skills to further increase our damage. And we will be taking a physical skill in our utilities. We will be taking Great Fortitude. Gain vitality and ferocity based on a percentage of your power. Basically, we're using this to increase our overall health pool, which is this number down here. And when I show you the gear, you'll see that we have a rather substantial amount of power in our gear. And then finally, we're taking Might Makes Right. Gain health and endurance whenever you apply might to yourself. Remember what I said about applying might to ourselves with empowering allies? Well, while we're in combat and every time we gain might, we're also gaining health and endurance back. So this is more of a survivability trait. Now for Spellbreaker, we will be taking Pure Strike. Deal increased strike critical hit damage. This bonus is doubled against boonless foes. Basically, the reason why we're taking this one is because we want the increase to the critical damaging strikes. We will be taking Slow Counter. Full Counter applies Cripple and Slow. Remember what I said about the Leg Specialist, how it combos with another trait line that we have? Well, that's where this one comes in. Whenever we use our counter ability and it goes off and it applies Cripple and Slow, this will take effect. And finally, we will be taking Revenge Counter. Full Counter deals additional damage and grants resistance. Copy conditions on yourself to targets you hit with a full counter. Basically, this is a way to, I guess you can say, transfer conditions over to our enemies, but primarily the reason we want this one is the additional damage for using our full counter. Now for the gear itself, we will be using for the armor Berserker stats, which is power, precision, and ferocity, with superior rune of the Brawler. Now for the weapon, we will primarily be using a spear, which is using the Knight stats, which is power, precision, and toughness, with superior sigil of force and superior sigil of strength. However, if you do not have the spear unlocked yet, you can switch it out with 2 daggers, again with Knight stats and force and strength sigils. Now the trinkets, we will be using a combination of Berserker, which is for the backpack, the necklace, and the 2 rings. But for the earring accessories, we will be taking the Knight stats, which is power, precision, and toughness. And for the Relic, we will be using Relic of the Thief to increase our recharge rate for our attacks. Now again, this is not the greatest build that a warrior can make with the spear, but this is one I like and one I hope you will enjoy as well. And to show you how this build works, I am actually just in the Astral Ward Moon Camp Waypoint in the new expansion called Lowland Shore. And I am just going to fly around and find a random attack and show you how this build works. Normally at this point, I would just have it at a mastery point, but considering that the mastery points are now becoming somewhat outdated, as it were, I'm not sure if this would be a rather appropriate test. So let's see if we can find an event that has a relatively high amount of enemies that we can take care of. Again, this is probably one that I prefer to use out in open world. And hello. Oh. Here we go. Now, there is no real set rotation for this build, other than just pretty much hit everything with all your AoEs. And I also forgot to mention that the utility skills we will be taking will be To the Limit, which is a shout skill to apply healing to ourselves as others with that trait line that involved our shout skills, as well as Shake It Off to cure conditions. Our physical skill I mentioned is Bull's Charge here for a CC, as well as knocking a nice little bit of damage. We will also be taking a passive effect such as Signet of Might to improve our overall power, as well as Signet of Rage to increase our adrenaline, so that we can keep using our full counters, as well as our little burst spear ability there. Now again, there is no real set rotation for this. Just hit everything as you can and have fun with it. That's basically all this build really is to have fun. And hopefully get a few things unlocked and complete events. Hopefully make some achievements as well in this new expansion. And that's really all there is to it. Now again, I said it before and I'll say it again, that this is not the greatest build that a warrior can make, especially with a spear. But I hope you enjoy. Feel free to share this build with anybody else who's interested in making a survivable warrior spear. And I will see you again in the next video, okay? Happy gaming!